Level on me, level on me, level on Sue, please.
Checking in, I'm checking in, I'm checking. I'm not checking out your bum. I'm just talking aloud. La 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 la. I'm just singing
You're
a little
totally
song.
checking out my bum. Who are you talking to, McGarvie?
Yeah, yeah.
You're doing it for research purposes,
Of
though.
course I
It's
am. Of
totally
course I
legit.
am. I'm making sure you're healthy. Yeah.
Hey, welcome to another edition of Turned On with Sue and John. She is the notorious Sue McGarvie of Sex with Sue fame, and I am the working on becoming more and more notorious bad boy known as John Milkey, the Milkman. Just added another radio station, by the way. I can't disclose where yet, but
Attaboy.
Southern
Attaboy. It's only my
Ontario.
mother. It's only my mother that thinks I'm notorious. Yeah.
I think you're notorious. I
Well,
keep
that's
telling you that
good.
all the time. We got a lot to get to today. Let's begin right here. You've got a listener question. Someone wants to know, is it normal to prefer anal over vaginal sex?
Yes, with capital letters. Some women who have a form of anal play say they frequently orgasm. I have a girlfriend who says that that is the only way she can come. For me, somebody described me as a vault. Anyway, everybody's got different things, and I tell everybody I learned everything I knew about anal sex from Nina Hartley, the porn star, when I interviewed her in the '90s.
I see
And
that dates back a while.
oh man, she had both a husband and a wife, and she said she only did anal a couple times a month, despite all the movies about her, taking it up the ass. But I think she's talking about using, one dildo and then another one and then another one. You start with one the size of your finger, and she was the one who put me on anal douches. And she said, but it's loaded with nerve endings, and it's actually anatomically configured for great orgasms. So if you experience that, there's lots of reasons to go back for more. It's very responsive, and it doesn't have to be, penetration. It can be butt plugs, it can be vibrator around the area. And again, it's kind of how you're wired. Some people, and here's my thinking on it, and based on my own body and other people's bodies, and lots of women, I talk to lots of women about sex. The minute you get this together, we get alcohol and we talk about sex. But the reality is, everybody's got something. I am very G-spot oriented. I wrote a book about G-spot orgasms. I really am, yes, everybody loves clitoral stimulation, but I find there's kind of a way, I don't know, it's the way the nerve endings are clustered, that you tend to be either like that or you tend to be more anally, and clit number one, but it's number two kind of branches off. Are you vaginally and G-spot oriented, or are you anal? And it's kind of where your body aligns from an anatomy point of view. So don't worry about it. Just make sure you're scrupulously clean and fill your boots, or in this case, fill your butts. Yeah.
I think that whole topic is so surprising to people, and it's interesting that it would come up on the show today because someone new that I'm following, she's absolutely gorgeous, on Instagram. Her handle is Reels by Sky, Skye, and she posted a video talking about how she prefers anal to vaginal sex. And the people commenting were like, oh, come on. Seriously?
Yeah.
Yes, you heard it.
Lots. There was an interesting book that came out, I don't know, about 20 years ago, which was really groundbreaking. It was about a ballerina in New York City, and it was her memoirs and how that's what she wanted. She wanted anal. She was a bit of a weird memoir, but she kept all the used condoms of the guy she was doing it with, like in a like special spot. And I'm like, that's weird. But it was really interesting for her to very honestly talk about it. She used two big razors and baby powder to shave around the anal region so she could be smooth there. And I guess she's a ballerina, so she's bendy enough. I'm like, there's no way I'm going to be bending over with baby powder and I can, shave in the shower, no problem. But I'm
Uh,
thinking, how
I
the hell are you doing that?
I need
Yeah.
minions for that,
Of
frankly.
course we do.
Any
We need to be
volunteers?
Roman. Please, take care of my nether regions. I don't know. Anyway, I should find the name of that book. But it's interesting. So no, absolutely, if you are, if you like butt play, there's lots of people that'll be like super interested in you. Some people really like it, some people don't. Some people are in the middle. There are guys that are completely looking for that. Like whatever, it's all good.
The show is brought to you by EdenFantasies.com. What a website. What a cool place to shop.
I love those guys. They are so
Yeah.
nice to me. Hi, Alex. So everybody's so good. And, they're in Moldova. Like Moldova, it's like the hotbed of sexual activity. They're just so friggin' kind and concerned about their customers and earnest and got that. Oh, they're lovely. They're just lovely. I have nothing but great things to say about that site, the people, the product, the prices, and literally I have been a sex therapist. I used to do sex toy events, and I know all those guys from, Cal Exotica and Doc Johnson, and they sell a lot of crappy stuff. With bad silicone that smells bad. These guys don't. I freaking love them. Yeah. When in doubt, go European.
We just talked anal sex a moment ago. I can tell you, because I happen to frequent EdenFantasies.com a little bit, they have the most gorgeous glass butt plug. Just leaving that there. EdenFantasies.com. Click their banner at TurnedOnPodcast.com, where you will also note that this podcast is now available on our YouTube channel. That's right, we are back on YouTube.
Look, I'm going to wear something really skanky so that people can wear, here I am taking off my clothes so people can go to our YouTube channel. Cause if you do all this work editing it, God damn it, people better watch it. So I will just
I'm working out daily. I'm walking more. I'm on the bike more. So I may join Sue in the skanky department. I may be able to fit into my leather harness again. That'll be your quote unquote reward if you watch the YouTube channel. All right, back to the show. Let's discuss this. Ways you suck in bed. And I don't think we're talking about the good way, or are we?
No. So apparently it was really funny because I have to tell you in the swinger section, I did a talk with 25 women over the weekend who came, and they shall remain anonymous, of course, but they know who they are. Came over to my place. There was wine. There was talk about sex. And I've got this new book out called The Suburban Hedonist that's coming out this spring. And I wanted some stories from women because that was the part that I needed. And oh my God, the stories. Oh my God, the stories. But they were saying that the big problem with swinging is, you do all this work to find people and you go for coffee and then you're ready and then you get to bed and it sucks. It's so bad. Like they just have no game. So I know listeners on this show are upping their skills because, you guys are epic because you're listening to us and we're training you by default and it's all good. But apparently there's a whole bunch of people that don't know they're bad in bed. So ways you are bad in bed are you're distracted, you look at your phone seriously. You are, I'm ADHD, but if I'm in the moment, I'm in the moment. You are too worried about what your body looks like. I know we've talked about this before. You got to do it in the dark. You're all worried about having a chiffon thing over your tummy. And you're like, who cares?
Let it go. Let it go.
And it doesn't matter what you look like. If you own it, we all love you.
Yep.
You don't change it up, if one thing works, my brother, when he was a kid, had his favorite joke, right? Is, why doesn't Batman go fishing? Because Robin ate all the worms. That was his joke. And he thought, well, if the first time he told it was funny, the second time it must be funnier. So he kept repeating the damn joke. And if I ever want to twist him up, I just tell that joke, right? 40 years later. Anyway, it's this piece about if you think it's good one way and then you do it again and again and again and again, we all we know.
Practice makes perfect kind of thing, right? Yeah.
Yeah. And you feel shame if you don't come, you don't perform. No, we talk about it. And again, it doesn't matter what the hell the outcome is. It's the walk in the woods, not getting to the other side. So if you're not getting there, do something else. Play, have fun, laugh, tickle, get markers out, write on each other. Do something.
It's news you won't find on your local TV channel. It's news you can only find here on Turned On with Sue and John with today's sex news. Once again, Sue McGarvie.
Sex news. Well, it's normally studies, so maybe you could find it, but there's a study that links extended computer use with a higher chance of erectile dysfunction. And basically, in simpler terms, is a link between sitting in front of a computer all day and developing ED, right?
I'm
There's
so much trouble then. Oh my gosh.
I know lower levels of follicle stimulating hormone And what you want to do, and especially people who engage in leisurely computer activities, that means all the gamers out there. So if you're doing nothing but gaming all the time, apparently it's follicle stimulating hormone, stimulates production of sperm cells in the testes. But all those computer geeks, all the nerdy guys, sometimes they can be great because they're, any of my sex with nerdy guys meant they were well read and knew what they were doing better than a lot of guys who are the bro guys who are like, baby, I got the equipment. But the reality is if you spend too much time in front of the computer, get out there, get some fresh air, go for a bike ride, do something that gets your follicle stimulating hormone up, because that's the reality.
Putting down the joystick can be good for your joystick, in other words.
Well done. That was well done.
I've got you, Suma.
I see it. All right. Number 2, there was a study about women and hair length. It turns out the longer your hair is, the more sex you got. And I'm like, what? And in Journal of Evolutionary Psychology, researchers were wondering whether ladies with long locks were more likely to get it on. Apparently, women with longer locks were determined hotter and therefore had more sex. But the truth is that it's an evolution. And we talked about that, an evolutionary biology thing. And when in dating, women with longer hair get more dates because historically, if you had parasites, you couldn't grow your hair, right? So it's one of those things. Well, it's those things about health, right? The more hourglass figure you had, the more clear your skin was, the younger you look. Those were all indicators of health and fertility. Okay. So even your little primitive lizard brain goes, ooh, can make babies, go there. Ooh, let's take her to our cave and, feed her. So that piece, it's not that you're sexier, because I just saw a beautiful woman with short hair, beautiful. Nobody could take her eyes off her boobs. But anyway, and she was singing last week. It was a great band. Anyway, she was front and like, what a cleavage. Anyway, we all were mesmerized because she's bouncing her down. But the reality of it, the short hair was like nailed her. And I just saw, like the Wilson Phillips video of, and she had that cute little bob. Everybody's got something, but historically, the healthier you are, the more like you have. And number 3, there was a headline this week that said, and it basically was considered the most British headline ever. Okay. A big sex festival in Tunbridge Wells sparks concern about parking. It wasn't concern about the sex. It was concern about the parking. And everybody was like, this is definitely the most British headline ever.
That's awesome. I'm just surprised it wasn't about teabagging. I will edit that out. Gross. Okay. All right. Hang on. Let me just edit that out.
Graham's giggling about that one because he sent me that. One. It was concerned about the parking, and everybody was like, this is definitely the most British headline ever.
FYI, Sue, I had a little look at the numbers on the podcast, and about 71% of our audience has been in the States. More and more Canadians are tuning in, FYI. It is now 60% U.S., and Canada is climbing. So I bring that up to say this. How Gen Z, how Gen Z are challenged between the sheets. Is that not the longest intro I've ever done for you on this show? Probably.
That's cool. So our British friends can also say Gen Z or Gen Z if you're south of the border. Right. But it turns out they're having some challenges. There's this. I was doing again a thing about dating, and there was an article about Brigham Young University in Utah where all the parents are panicked because they're sending their kids off to Mormon University, and their job is to get an education, but some of them to come home with an MRS, right? To find other nice earnest Mormons and make nice earnest Mormon babies. Well, they're not. 1 in 4 turns out 1 in 4 have not had sex with a partner. 1 in 4, 31% of people say they're engaged in virtual sex on top of that, which means they're not doing it. So the Brigham Young parents are like, we got a problem. Let's call the pastor in. And they had an ice cream social that sold out in about 2 minutes and trying to get, people together. But they were really struggling. But never having partnered sex, a 2021 Kinsey Institute and Love Honey survey said they're struggling with it, their desires and their boundaries. They don't know how to speak up. There's pressures to define or label their sexuality. And I never thought of that. it may be inclusive, but it's hard. Like, we were either straight or gay
Right.
or bi. It's kind of like, boys and girls when we were doing it. They
There are
have a
so many terms. Yeah.
rainbow
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
options. And if they don't define themselves and they can't figure it out, it says, what if I know what if I don't know what I like and everybody else does? Seems to be a common question because they haven't, and they're expected to know because it's all in the news and whatever. Or they're in one of those subgroups and feel marginalized. They're often getting photos, which in some countries, Canada's on the books as well as the UK, that it's illegal to send a dick pic. It's starting to be illegal. So certainly in the UK, it's definitely illegal to, and somebody was convicted of it. And they still have, like everybody else, run-of-the-mill performance anxiety that they just don't know if they're good. They're not like whatever. So all of these younger people, I don't know where, and I guess my kids would be Gen Z, but trying to figure out how to do that. Fortunately, my kids have been, they're like, Mom, please stop talking, because I've been talking about sex forever. And they're like, la, 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 please don't tell us. Although I did have one say they were glad they grew up in a sex positive home because their friends are all uptight about it, but at least they can talk to me. So if you can't talk to your parents, write me, sue@sexwithsue.com. I'll set you straight.
Or not straight, as the case may be.
Well, you're on today, boy.
All right, listener, get on your knees. It is the Kinky Confessional. That should make some people nice and wet. Okay. Head on over to TurnedOnPodcast.com. Your home for the Kinky Confessional. It doesn't require an email address or a phone number or anything that identifies you. It's just a blank square where you can write in anything you want to confess as it pertains to sex and sexuality. And we will read it here, and you have the satisfaction that at least it's out there. Somebody knows, even though they don't know it's you. Confession number 1. My partner and I have a side hustle creating XXX videos online. We have geo-blocked it so that we minimize the chances of our families finding out, but find it so hot.
Wow. I wonder how much money you're making. I'm like, I've got these new books coming out, and somebody was saying that, yeah, they had a friend who's a chiropractor wrote a book, and like every time they sell a book, it like does a little charm, like ding. And all of a sudden they were over there and they do that. And it reminded me of that movie about, porn hustles and the first people that set up porn, and they did different sounds for everybody that was looking for different kinds of sex. But that's so cool. I wonder how much money they're making. That's my first question. It's not what kind of crazy shit they're doing or where they are or whatever. It's,
are you making bank? Right.
Are you making bank? Yep.
And not the spank bank. Well, yes, the spank bank, I suppose. Confession number 2, again from TurnedOnPodcast.com. I could never tell my wife this, but I have a secret fantasy about being kidnapped by 2 very strong men in ski masks. Not sure how she'd feel about her husband thinking that, though.
Ooh, yes. Ski masks being tied up and yeah. Yeah, I saw that. I saw that confession. It was like, yep, this is my wank bank stuff. And there's lots and 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 lots of people who have same-sex fantasies.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean anything. Just sometimes it's taboo. Sometimes it does mean something, but roll with it, enjoy it. What goes on in your head can't be edited. And if it does, then it starts making you twitchy anyway. So yeah.
You like what you like. And you can always confess it here on Turned On with Sue and John. TurnedOnPodcast.com is where you will find the Kinky Confessional. Next up on the podcast this week, why women like bad boys and what you can do to get the same attraction without being an asshole.
That was my lead-in. I know. I thought you'd like it. Well, it turns out, right?
Asshole. Anytime I get a chance to say asshole into a microphone, I'm all in.
All right. I knew you would. Okay. So there was a professor of psychology at Eastern Connecticut State University, and she talked about how people are attracted to bad boys. Women are attracted to bad boys, but so are gay men are attracted to bad boys. And they found that these men ooze testosterone, right? Testosterone's the stuff that, makes us sexy, makes us, have road rage, makes us, do all the crazy things we do. It leads to boldness and is associated with exaggerated sexuality. they can be, badass. And for some women, there's also what she calls the trifecta of bad qualities, which are narcissism, sense of entitlement, Machiavellian, prone to callous exploiting of others, and psychopathic, displaying antisocial and impulsive behavior. Yet sometimes we simply can't quit them. But it frees us from pressure to be a good girl. And women are most attracted to masculine men, especially when they're fertile in the middle of their cycles, even on an unconscious evolutionary level, right? They feel like they're going to be, even if they're strong and independent women, it's compelling. They want to take them on as a project. They think they'll protect us. They also have grown up with toxic relationships in their family of origin. So they feel like stable love can be boring. You associate love with volatile and strong emotional reactions. But the truth is if you don't want to be this jerk, but you want to be the bad boy, and it's not just going to Value Village and buying a leather jacket, it is, or deciding you need a motorcycle license or whatever, or take up smoking, or, roll the fake pack in your rolled up t-shirt. It is about
it's 1956 again, Sue, right?
Yeah, I know. All right. But if you want to do that, it's about increasing your testosterone. And you can do that. Some people whose testosterone is low, or if you used to be a bad boy and not at much anymore, go check your testosterone levels. And you can get it, if they're low, you can get it, medicinally. And if they're not low, you can still bump them up to the highest level with supplements. So I strongly recommend my guy locally, Mike Bade, who was in the Strongest Man in the World contest. He's got a company called The Fit Shop, and they do a bunch of stuff around testosterone-based herbs. But have a read about them. There's a couple of, and I'm not going to endorse any particular product, but have a look at upping your testosterone levels. Because even if you're not a bad boy, all of a sudden women are going to be following you home, and you're not sure why. It's because your testosterone's highest.
Time for this week's weird sex facts.
Well, there's a few. It turns out that they're sleep-deprived men. So if you're not getting enough sleep, you're going to believe that women want you. Even if you're delusional, and oftentimes you are, you're likely to believe that women want you if you're sleep deprived. So
I feel seen here, Sue. I really do.
Apparently, ancient Egyptians used to keep female bodies at home until they start to decompose in order to prevent necrophilia. I thought, oh my God, I thought that's such a weird fact. But I thought, all right, I'm going to say it. We don't talk a lot about illegal, and necrophilia is definitely illegal. But, this is ancient Egyptians, so we can do that. You can't say happiness without saying penis. Ha ha ha. You're welcome. Men who have sex at least twice a week can have 50% their risk of heart disease, according to a 2010 study, and it's been replicated. So honestly, if you've got heart problems, you should be getting off at least twice a week. We need to up our arousal levels and make sure to keep our partners healthy twice a week, people. And the average vagina grows by 200% when it's sexually aroused. It's regularly 3 to 4 inches along, but it can grow to accommodate 200%, which is why if women aren't aroused, it hurts because you're sinking it to the nuts and it's not fun. But if they are aroused, then what happens is their internal organs move up and out of the way, the vagina elongates, and they get ready to accept an erect penis or whatever cucumber or whatever hell else they're putting in there. And it's
Bad dragon. Did I say that out loud?
You totally did. So yeah, Eden Fantasies, go check it out. Yeah.
Another listener question, and Sue loves those. So Sue at sexwithsue.com, or just hit us up. The contact information is on our website, TurnedOnPodcast.com. This person says, my partner has bumps on his penis. Is this normal?
Well, it can be. I had a partner who had bumps. They weren't red, they weren't spots. They were just part of the funny looking makeup that is, male chicken skin, can
Oh,
be weird looking. It can be weird looking. It doesn't matter. But like women, men can develop fibrous lumps, excess tissue down below, right? Sometimes the bumps can schedule, like it can also signal an allergic reaction, latex or the clothing detergent he uses. So try going to I do the sensitive Tide that is like free and clear and has no perfume and stuff. Sometimes that actually helps more than you think. But the other thing is they just like people have bumps on their face, they can have it on all parts of their body.
yeah.
If it's spontaneous and it's just come up, maybe you need to see a doctor first because it's not, something else, right? If you have a weird rash that doesn't go away, definitely see your doctor. Syphilis has one of those weird rashes. I'm not suggesting it is. I'm just saying bumps can be normal. Weird rash things, not so much. It can also be just chafing or heat stuff in the summer and, diaper rash, et cetera, because you haven't crotch rot, because you haven't washed as well as you should. But don't assume it. If you have, and the doctor says nothing to worry about, and you've got all these bumps, you can get them lasered off.
Yep.
Or you can get them, but then you end up with sometimes little marks. So you have what you have. There's a lot of women who don't like the length of their labias or the color of that or whatever. We've all got different parts, and it's about loving the body you're in.
One of our regular go-tos on the podcast. So, you're a swinger, and I'm going to dedicate this week's segment to some new friends on FetLife. I'm not going to name them. They're in the States. You know who you are. If you'd like to join me on FetLife, you are looking for Megahertz, all one word, HURTS.
Right. Megahertz is a very cool name for somebody in radio. So if you get the reference. So if you're a swinger, there's a couple of things that came out. One was, a sad story about a swinger at a swing event who was so drunk, she jumped into the pool, broke her neck. Now she's in traction right now in a British hospital. I hope she's okay. But what was interesting about it was that they mentioned that there was between 1.5 and 2 million swingers in the UK. I'm like, wow, those numbers are high. Where are they getting those numbers? Holy smokes. That was the article. So I thought that was interesting, but it also reminded me to, and when I did this talk, I told you earlier in the show that I did this talk with 25 women come over to talk about the lifestyle and their experiences. It was really interesting how many of them had to do it sober. They were really, they said, if anybody's impaired, we won't touch them. And other people are like, well, I kind of have to drink half a bottle of wine to just get started with it. And it's an interesting dialogue, and it was really a big discussion. And and then some of them said, being a swinger, we had sex and it was bad. But everybody had little stories. Somebody said, oh yeah, I had this guy, and the minute he'd come, he'd start laughing hysterically. And it turns out his wife, who was doing her husband, was also laughing hysterically. And I guess the two of them, that was it. It was just a one and done because they were just too weirded out about that. So everybody has different stories about being a swinger. If you have one, I have a new book coming out. I'd love to hear yours, sue@sexwithsue.com. But to understand that there is a whole new movement about swinging straight so you don't jump upside down into a pool and have to be in traction.
Remember a while ago we spoke with, and I guess there's a reality show about them in the UK, Gage and his wife Liv, who are swingers, have developed a phenomenal app for their community as well. Can't help but think that they may be influencing some of those numbers in the UK because they're fantastic. That's an episode from, I want to say a couple of months back, but you'll find Gage and Liv if you scroll through past editions of Turned On with Sue and John. Finally, on this week's podcast, what if we considered being a musician a type of sexual orientation? What?
Well, it turns out that there is a bunch of, how some people can come from thinking about it and some people can come from just like wiggling around. Well, it turns out that there's a bunch of people that get really excited when they're playing music. They find it's a sexual charge. Maybe it's the way they hold the guitar up against their crotch. I don't know. But it was really interesting. And it came out of a discussion with a bunch of sort of Christian musicians. And they were fully expected to engage in worship and singing and dancing and whole body participation. And they harnessed the blood flow either through preaching or musically to be in a space where there's such a heightened arousal that they literally climaxed. And some recording artists confess they've been sensually aroused or fully satisfied, depending on how intense their emissions were from playing really great music. And it hadn't come up before. And I thought, well, that's an interesting idea, right? And given the fact that you're an audiophile and happen to love music, but the principles, we're talking about the physical and emotional connections and expressions of love spiritually serves as a powerful medium, right? Understanding deepened your bond, and it also just increases your blood flow. And I thought, that's really different. That's a really interesting thing, right?
Well, yeah, when you think of all the songs that have been written on this subject and performed on this subject, Sexual Healing by Marvin Gaye, for example, I Want Your Sex, George Michael, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. 9 Inch Nails, right? Closer.
Right.
And you think just how in that moment those performers would be, which is what makes them such great songs. You got to think, yeah, that's a pretty sexual experience. And they're singing about pretty sexual, events in a song. I love it.
I'm not just sure it's not the vibrations of the drum machine or
but that, sure.
Yeah, but I think, as I said, we had a band on Friday night and we were all mesmerized by the lead singer in a tight shirt jumping up and down. And yeah, she did a great rack. That's all. And everybody, even the women who were straight, noticed it. And it was a really sensuous experience. So we're all good with that.